Welcome back to Next Gen Investing. It's now time to discuss the latest with Cipher Mining, as we're seeing some news today, as well as an $800 million senior note offering. So some various pieces moving here. Joining us now is Jeff Pierce, Senior Manager of Derivatives Trading for Charles Schwab. So Jeff, walk us through, what has been a really interesting move on the session and also seeing spiking volume today.
Yeah, tons of volume. Obviously, we're looking at a stock that has had incredible increase over the last year, up over 200%. If you're not familiar with the company, really best known for that Bitcoin mining, but also now more importantly, the data center operator. They provide those physical data centers with the power and the cooling. We're seeing stories that are certainly moving the stock today. As you pointed out, Cipher has entered into a 10-year co-location agreement with Fluidstack for around $3 billion. However, it could reach up to $7 billion with 2 5-year expansions. This represents one of the largest AI infrastructure agreements we've seen in the sector. Fluidstack will be the AI cloud provider platform that builds and operates those high-performing computing clusters. Cipher will deliver about 168 megawatts of that IT load and data computing capacity to the company. We also know that Google has a stake in backing in this, which really gives it some more credibility. Google will help provide some of the support for the project project financing in return for warrants equal to about 5.4% of Cipher's equity, or about 24 million shares.
Jeff, when you look at the performance and you try to make some sense of it, was this a case of, hey, optimism around the backstop and then concerns around dilution immediately after you get the news about the senior notes offering, or why do you see the stock seemingly moving so dramatically?
Well, the stock has had incredible swings related not just to their push into the AI side of this kind of computing power, but also what we've seen out of crypto in general has been moving this stock. So I think the reaction to this is that maybe we're selling the news a little bit, but to your point, we saw those senior note offerings for about $800 million. Investors might be looking at that as well and have some concerns. We've seen earnings over the past few years. If we look back at Q2, they still reporting a net loss, although on an adjusted basis, they did come in better than expected. So I think investors are probably taking a little bit of time here to sell off and take some profits. That's what we're seeing.
Okay, and so today's move has been, monstrous. We saw some substantial selling that has eased a bit. But so as far as, looking at the 17% contraction today, is this just really, tied to overall pessimism in the market, or are we seeing any degree of specificity driving some of the weakness today?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything specific out of certainly the offering, for the senior notes. That's something that we will see investors sell off from sometimes. Although, there has been other news that this might be kind of a mounting pressure here. If we look at, more recent events, V3 Holdings, one of their largest stakeholders, disclosed about a 2.7 million share sale worth about $33 billion. Despite those sales, the shares actually moved higher that day. That was partially probably along with some good news around their hash rate growth and some of the forecasts we saw there. So we could be seeing some mounting stories that push this pressure to sell off today that are a bit more specific to Cipher.
Real quick, Jeff, 30 seconds or less, which I'm sure you can do. Is this still really correlated to crypto? Bitcoin's under pressure today, or some of this data center stuff augmented a little bit?
Yeah, it certainly is. Think about it from basically two businesses for this company. The self-mining of Bitcoin, they operate these large data centers for mining. They collect revenue from that mining. That's very sensitive to Bitcoin prices and to their efficiency. Now they've got this high-powered computing where they're leasing this computing capacity to customers. That really takes them away from relying just on crypto and allows some of that recurring revenue. So they are, establishing things outside of crypto, but they're still sensitive to that.
Yeah, and I think a good place to leave it and good point there is we're down about 18% nearly on the session, but appreciate it, Jeff Pierce, for that help today on Cipher Mining.